This time I'd like to call the February 7th meeting of the Kansas City Board of Public Utilities to order. We'd like to welcome all listening and viewing this meeting of the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Public Utilities, whether in person or through technology. This meeting is being recorded by both video and audio. During the visitors' comments section of the agenda, the community members who wish to speak to the board will be asked to provide their name and address and will have 3 minutes to speak. Members of the public using Zoom that wish to address the board need to use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the application or window to signal that they wish to address the board during the visitor comments section. Members of the public connected by phone only need to press *9 to indicate they wish to address the board in the visitors comment section. Those attending in person should sign up at the sign up sheet located near the entry just to the right of the doors when you come in. There's a sign up sheet. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and should be directed to the board. As these comments are public, the board cautions visitors to not disclose confidential account information or information on an account that is not in their name. Staff will not provide individual account information or history in an open meeting. As always, the public may also email or call the BPU with any concerns. The agenda and presentation may be found on the BPU website, and if you are using Zoom, they will appear on your screen. As a reminder, this is a business meeting of the Board of Directors, and we will conduct the meeting accordingly. The following rules apply to this meeting. Every person in the room will act respectfully towards each other. Personal attacks and accusations toward any person will not be tolerated. State your specific issue to the board only. We will then determine staff involvement, and attendees shall refrain from side discussions or individual commentary that interferes with speakers or other attendees at this meeting. If side discussion is necessary, please take it outside the boardroom. If any of the rules are breached during the meeting, the individual is subject to removal from the boardroom. My name is Tom Groneman. I'm the 2nd District and Board President. Other members of the board and staff include Bill Johnson, our General Manager, David Haley, Member at Large, Position 2, Stevie Weeks, Senior, 1st District, Brett Parker, 3rd District, Mary Gonzalez, Member at Large, Position 1, and Rose Mulvaney Henry, Position 3. Angela Lawson on the far end is our Acting Chief Counsel. Please remember to put your phones on silent and be aware that the microphones are sensitive and can pick up and record comments made anywhere in the room. Before we begin the meeting, would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's see, roll call, please.
Roll call. Mulvaney Henry.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Gonzalez. Here. Groneman.
Here.
Haley.
Present.
Wakes.
Here.
Quorum.
Are there any additions or corrections or to the agenda? Anybody have any additions? Okay.
Move to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Okay, have a motion to approve and a second for the approve the agenda, please. Roll call.
Roll call. Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Gonzalez. Aye. Groneman.
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Next, we have approval of the minutes of the regular session of January 17th, 2024. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of January 17th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Um, I guess that's it. Bill?
All right, Mr. President, thank you. Chris, is there anyone here wishing to speak tonight? Thank you. I would ask Ricky Hendon. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last. Can you come up to the mic? If you can please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address the board.
What do I say?
Yes, anytime, anything. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Ricky Hansen, 4914 Washington Avenue, ACK 66102.
Now you can speak to why you came to our board meeting.
Like every time I got a concern on my bill, I call, the line that you guys have on Google. And every time I have to speak to a representative, I'm always on hold for hours, or I give them my number for a call back. And the latest, the earliest they call me back is 48 hours, or sometimes it's not even a call back at all. And it's frustrating because I'm not on regular billing, I'm on flex pay. So sometimes I don't know if they got my payment. I get emails, but it's just frustrating that I can never talk to no one. Then I come down here and you guys saying we're closed permanently. So what are we supposed to do if customer service is not working or the building is not open? So what are the other alternatives?
So we do have a customer service staff person here. If you need to meet with Ms. Henson, then she can certainly make herself available for the board. I do know that that we just recently had some staff movement out of customer service. So we're not able to get back to all the calls yet, but we are. So have 3 people that we're training right now, trying to get up to speed as quickly as we can. And then
So how many workers do you guys? It's hundreds of Wyandotte County residents.
Yeah.
But the system is,
So can you talk about the information you were trying to seek from BPU when you were making your call?
like it'll tell me to, press 1 for a callback number, or press 2 to continue being on hold. And when I press 2, like one time I was on hold for 2 hours and nobody still answered.
Okay, so Janetta will take your questions.
Okay.
I do want to just say there are the options when you call in that you can get a lot of calls answered automatically if you just go through the prompts, because it'll walk you through and not knowing your questions. The answer may be there without having to actually reach a live body, but it may not be. So you may have to speak to a representative depending on what that question is. But we are trying to get those employees back in place, get them through training and back in place. It's just one area of our utility that we have a lot of staff revolving through.
Yeah, because flex pay is different. Like, basically you paying as you go. So like if you get disconnected, it's a whole lot of extra, fees they add on.
That was 3 minutes.
And, it's just frustrating when I can't get in touch with anyone to really get a full understanding of it.
Okay. I'll follow up with Ms. Henson, and then I'll follow up with the board. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the only, are there anybody else wishing to speak? This is the only person.
Does anybody have their hand raised?
Yes, sir. I have two hands raised online. The first one is CC, and I've been able to verbally speak now.
Could you release the first person? Could you release the first person?
Yes, sir.
And if you can state your name and address for the record, please, and you got 3 minutes.
He's muted.
Is she on mute? She came off, now she's back on.
Now she's off.
Hello. Yes, Ms. Cece, we can hear you. Go ahead and state your name and your address, please.
This is CC May. I live in Wyandotte County. First I want to thank Mr. Ricky. But my second question was I received a bill from a young lady. I know I can't discuss all of that, but what she had stated is that she was also on a flex pay, and her bill was one amount there for the last few payments, and then she got a disconnect notice and an extra $140 placed on her bill. And when she finally got a hold to customer service after many attempts, they told her that her rate was the wrong rate and they had to change it. So my question is are there different rates for different people? Because if she was on one rate and they changed it saying that she was on the wrong rate and then it went up by $140, then that would indicate that some people have a lower rate plan than others.
CC, and you're obviously speaking for somebody else, right?
Well, I'm asking a question about the rate difference. Now I gave you the example of where this came from, but I'm just asking if there is a different rate payment for some customers versus others based off this young lady's bill.
No, the rates are the same for all customers. If you're residential, you have one set of rates. If you're a commercial, you have a different set of rates. If you're industrial, you have a different set of rates. But for all residential customers, those rates are the same regardless to where you live in town.
Okay. And my last question is why don't we have enough customer service representatives, and when are y'all opening the building back up? Because customer service is obviously a problem when we're trying to keep our lights on. If we're trying to make payment arrangements and such, and we don't get a call back with a certain amount of days and our lights get cut off, BPU is not going to waive it and say, oh, well, we didn't call you back, so we're going to cut your lights back on. Y'all don't work like that. So I'm trying to figure out how long it's gonna take y'all to rectify that problem, because it is still kind of cold outside and people need their light.
Okay, I'm going to speak to some of that under my miscellaneous comments. Again, can I have customer service? Because I need more details about some of the things you're talking about, and I certainly don't have that in front of me today. So can we follow up with either you or the customer of record about what you're talking about, but more specifically what that customer of record to talk about, what she's experienced?
I will get the customer's information and I will email it to you all so that you all can rectify it with her, so that she can talk to you all about it.
Okay, if you can send it to me, you have my email address, then I'll.
And that is time.
Okay,
Excuse me?
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Rob,
is the other person ready?
Hello?
Yeah, if you can state your name and address for the record, you got 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, I'll state my name and I'll state that I'm a resident of Kansas City, but I think it's a security problem to state address. So my name is Louise Lynch. I'm in Kansas City, Kansas. And I'd like to say first, good evening to everyone. And I'd like to address the comments that are being made in regards to customer service and the suggested assistance that you're trying to give tonight. It is imperative that we try and open up the lobby. Clearly, by the people that are calling in and myself are customer service practices, which we're able They don't have
Ms.
two
Lynch,
or-
you're fading out. I can barely hear you.
they don't have 2 or 3 hours to be on hold in regards to waiting for customer service as they try and work to pay the bill off. Asking people to meet with Janetta in the back is great for the moment, but people should not have to come to the board meeting to get their problem, addressed or because a callback's not done or whatever. It is simpler to open up that lobby, even on a reduced schedule, to accommodate people. I know personally that even Janetta Henson doesn't return calls. Numerous times I've put in, amongst other people. There are serious issues, and I'd like to address what is your threshold for sending out disconnects for people on what they owe? During the worst cold storm snap recently, I guess my bill was short like $5 or $3 or something like that, and was you know addressed that it would be turned off. Those are alarming notices, and I'd like to know, at what point do you think it's okay to send those notices to people with or without the temperature differences that you're going to shut their bill off? I know the bill is not free and people are not looking for that, but to send somebody that for like $5 is more than absurd when we can't even get a call in to customer service to ask a question. I know I've had problems on your computer system in
20 seconds.
paying bills recently, but I'm not and cannot medically attend your meetings, but I'm sure there are other people having similar issues. And I just like to know the brass tacks of what is it? Because it's not customer service we're getting. Thank you.
That's time.
Thank you. I'll attempt to reach out to you, Ms. Lynch. We certainly have talked on several occasions. I will try to reach out to you and make sure that because I couldn't hear everything you said. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on what you're asking tonight. Thank you for your call. Rob, is there anyone else?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so I'll move on to the general manager staff reports. First, I'll ask Maurice to come up. I think we talked to the board already about some of the work we're doing in terms of updating our integrated resource plan. So I thought it makes sense to just talk about what it is. And Maurice, you can go from there.
Okay. Good evening. Andrew Ferris and I are going to tag team this. So, it's best we do as a partnership. So hopefully this will be a kind of like a conversation. You have questions, feel free to stop me. I think it's a great topic. Came up this summer as we went through the rate case. It was a hot topic. And so this is a good time to ask those questions and go through that conversation of what's integrated resource planning and how does it impact the utility. So next. So I always like to start with the overview. We're going to define what is integrated resource planning. We're going to talk about the purpose of it, the central elements that go into integrated resource planning, key considerations, and then Andrew will come up and talk about BPU historical IRPs. We'll talk about 2024 BPU IRP study, and then questions after that. Next. So what is integrated resource planning? It's essentially an IRP, and that's what it is for short, is a roadmap to meet forecasted energy demand using both supply and demand side resources. They look at the associated risk and the benefit to the customer and the utility. And so essentially, I like to call it a strategic plan. It's basically a strategic plan for your energy and your supply side. We're looking at what does the future looks like, right? And we're planning out the needs of the utility and the needs of our customers in the same. And then we're looking at the risk as well. Next. So let's give a little background. So the first IRP was developed in the early 1990s. California did have a it was similar to IRP, but wasn't formally IRP. But EPRI, Electric Power Research Institute, basically formed the first IRP. It was on the hills. If you're around the 1990, 1992, it's the Clean Air Act amendments of 1990. That was the low sulfur push to basically move the dirty coal again to the low sulfur coal. The Energy Policy Act of 1992 actually required IRPs, but it was a suggested requirement. So it didn't require all states to implement them because it was suggested, but highly recommended. And then increased competition. So you saw renewables really creeping up, wind farms during this time. And so there was this push to make sure renewables had a way to basically participate in the market and provide that energy efficiency. And so IRP today is basically required by law in 35 states. In the states that don't require it by law, it's a recommended regulatory policy of the corporate commission of that state to still require it by the investor-owned utilities. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Next slide. So what's the purpose of it, right? It's basically like a balancing act. So first we start balancing between the supply and demand, right? It's looking at what's our supply need in the future and our demand need is in the future, and then our supply, right? It's a long-term vision, just like that strategic plan. It looks in the future and it say, what's happening in the future? What does our energy efficiency looks like? What environmental regulatory compliance requirements are in need? What does the Southwest Power Pool that we're a member of, what kind of reserve requirements could be coming out in the future? So it looks at all those requirements. Also looks at cost efficiency as well. What's the most cost efficient way to serve our customers, but also in line with our environmental sustainability, what we want to look for in the community, right? What do we want to serve our customers with, and is it cost efficient? So it looks at all those things. Next. So like I said, it's a balancing act. As you can tell, the requirements that go into the bucket is like load assumptions and look at the load forecast, what we're forecasting in the future. It looks at the reliability and capacity requirements as well. We have certain capacity reserve requirements that's being part of Southwest Power Pool, and those reserve requirements have a number that we have to hit over our actual demand. And then demand side requirements, solar panels, batteries, all that goes into the bucket. And then we look at our resources, existing resource retirements. We look at cost of existing resources, and then the cost of new resources as well. So all that goes into a bucket, and then we plan. We look at what's the most efficient way to serve our customers with the policy and rules we've set in place. Next. So to kind of give you some key considerations of how this works on the Kansas side, we have the Kansas Corporation Commission. It requires basically a 10 to 15 year lookout. So we have to look out 10 to 15 years, that planning horizon, to say, what does the next 15 years look like or next 10 years look like? On the Missouri side, it's a 20-year lookout. So they look out 20 years, say, what's happening in the next 20 years, and what does that look like from the standpoint of IRP, and what kind of capacity or demand needs we'll need during that time. As you probably, would know or probably would think, the further you get out, the less, the less it's going to align perfectly, if that makes sense. So 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, there's tons of adjustments that go along with that. So both states require compliance filings every 3 years. Every 3 years they come back, take a look at it and say, has the world, number one, met the forecast that we planned? Did EVs expand as fast as we think they were going to expand? Were we wrong? Did the EPA roll out a new requirement that we were thinking was going to happen, but Supreme Court knocked it down? So we look at that, and every 3 years are like, okay, we were wrong. Let's adjust a little bit and then continue moving forward. And so that's, oh, wait, go back real quick. And so if there's significant changes, and again, we're talking about the corporations, right? The Missouri Public Service Commission and the Kansas Corporation Commission. You have a significant change. You have a power plant that closes. They want you to come back and take a look at that, right? There's some changes happening there. So what does this mean for BPU, right? BPU does not fall under the Kansas Corporation Commission. However, we do perform an IRP. So we have two reasons. The first reason, it's good utility practice. It's good utility practice, number one, to have a household budget, right? Good utility practice to have a strategic plan. There's nothing requires us to have a strategic plan. We do it because it's good utility practice. Here is twofold. We do it because it's good utility practice. Also, the Western Area Power Administration require us to do it. And you go next one. So the Western Area Power Administration, we have a federal allocation, so of hydro. We have a piece from SWAPA, Southwestern Power Administration, and the Western Area Power Administration. They're agencies under the Department of Energy. And so they market the hydropower off Corps-owned or Bureau of Reclamation-owned hydropower plants. And so we have a piece of that. Right now, we get about 5 megawatts from WAPA. And so that's short for Western Area Power Administration. We get about 5 megawatts from there. And so part of that requirement to be a customer of WAPA, or to be a member of WAPA, you have to periodically submit IRPs. They want to make sure, number one, if you're going to be using the federal hydropower, you'll have this piece of hydropower you're going to get. They want to make sure you're doing it right. They want to make sure you're looking at your load, make sure you're planning, everything else. So part of that in our contract, we have this requirement. In that requirement, the IRP is required every 5 years. It must include the following. It must identify and compare energy supply resource options, have an action plan set by the utility, minimize adverse environmental impacts of new resources, must have an opportunity for public participation, and then must conduct a load forecasting, right? Do a load forecast of what the future looks like. Next. And so that's why we're here today. And that's why we perform this plan every 5 years, this planning process. So we have went out, we've kicked off the process. Our contractor is Black and Beach. Black and Beach is very well known in the area, but also it knows our system. Black and Beach has done a lot of work in our generation. And so one of the things we wanted to kick this off with was a power generation life assessment. So our power generation facilities, as you can imagine, has been on for quite a bit of time. And so one of the things you want to know, how long do we have left? So to actually have good metrics for the IRP, you kind of need to know where are we with our generation facilities. So Black and Beach just started with a generation life assessment and looked at the life of our CTs and Nearman 1. So they're still going through that process right now. It's looking at, number one, based on our capital, basically the capital we're going to put into it, our maintenance plans, and then looks at forecasted use based on market calls, based on weather, everything else. They put it all in the model and they come out and say, based on that use and based on your capital and based on your maintenance, your life of the unit is going to be this. And so that life assessment is going to feed into the IRP process. Black and Beach is actually doing both of those processes, so it feeds together nicely. We'll have a board and public engagement. And so that engagement will be facilitated by Black and Beach. So we'll come back to you, and those policies that we see as a utility, you're going to help us guide what does that future looks like. It's kind of like a strategic plan, right? What do we look like in the future, and what some policies you'd like to see for us to take in consideration when we're going through that study. So it goes into the model, and that will drive some of the modeling during that time. We also have the public weigh in on that process as well. So they'll have some surveys and some stuff they'll get to look at and say, hey, you know what? I like this, or I would like to see this in the future. And that will have a model that will come out as well. We'll have 2 planning periods, just like you saw in the Missouri PSC and the Kansas Corporation Commission. You have that 10 to 15 and that 20-year planning period. We'll have 2. We'll have one from 2024 to 2030, and we'll have one from 2031 to 2040. And those dates were on purpose. There's a greenhouse gas rule that's out there that's planning to have an impact around that time in 2030 and 2031. So we wanted to make sure we capture that. Also, we wanted to make sure, number one, we're looking far enough out. Once we look at that, what does it look like for Nearman 1? And so Nearman 1 is really captured too in that planning period too. And so we're expecting to have a final report between June and August of 2024. And so that would be the final report. So for the board participation, we're expecting that to be late spring. And then same for the public involvement. And so we'll have the final report. And so as far as the final report, I just want to caution you that the final report it's a plan. It's a strategic plan. It's not a rule book, but I would say it's a tool, right? It's a tool that helps us make those decisions in the future. So when we're looking at a need, or let's say CT 2 or 3, combustion turbine 2 or 3, we have to close down, we still have a need to replace it with something, we will come back to this and we'll take a look. It will drive that process. It will inform us, the board, the public, but it helps us, number one, to go through that process. And we actually have had that thought process, and this is not something new. So it's not something that we didn't plan for. We we're caught off guard. It's something that, hey, we have a plan. Let's look at the plan. Is it still, number one, is it still relevant? If all the information is correct, our load is still about the same as when we did the study. And so we might have some tweaks, but that's what this is. It's a planning process. It's a tool to help us get to that point. So that's all I have. We'll go ahead and tag Andrew and he'll come up here and knock it out. Thank you.
Thanks, Maurice. Yeah, so BPU has been doing integrated resource plans for over 20 years. We've been doing this for quite some time. We had another engineering firm here locally develop our integrated resource plan that we use today or have used historically. And really that previous focus was on pre-existing supply. And we're really coming from an era of excess supply. And that was really built around BBU being a balancing authority. What a balancing authority means is you're effectively responsible for 8,760 hours every single year of every Kansas City, Kansas load that needs to be served. And therefore you have to build your generation in a way to serve every single hour, every single day of your particular load. That rule is now changed, and we've changed that, and I'll talk about that briefly going forward. And we're also coming from a period of really flat load. So historically, up through 2000, it was always load growth. That was the electrical model. But since 2000, we've really leveled off, and that's caused by energy efficiency measures that have really come over the last 20 years. We've also seen some loss of domestic manufacturing, some of that type of stuff as well. We've seen here locally, but we've really been flat. But we're coming from an era of excess supply. And so therefore, we're now venturing in with the Black and Veatch model, and we're going to look at things a little bit differently because the world is changing, and we want to take a different look at the way we look at things. So next slide, please. So really SPP, or Southwest Power Pool, for those of you you're not familiar, it's the balancing authority for the 14 states here in the central part of the United States. So from northern Texas all the way to the Canadian border, from the edge of Kansas up through the parts of Arkansas and Missouri and Iowa and this really the central part of the country, they now act as the balancing authority. They're the regional transmission organization that manages that flow of power and transmission through this entire region. And so what that does is it now provides each of us utilities more flexibility in the way we meet our load. We now don't have to meet 8,760 hours just ourselves. Collectively as a pool, we still have to meet 8,760, but it's a full pool of all the assets from all the utilities around the region. And so it's collective pool is what it is versus us serving our own load. And really due to resource changes within SPP, the generation mix, resource adequacy requirements are changing, and the level of resource accreditation is changing as well. As you would guess, it's getting more punitive because of that changing. We're moving away from all thermal resources that are more locally served to more widespread resources that have more renewable features. And therefore, they have to make sure that they can meet all 8760 of all that 14 state region. So those resource accreditation things are changing. The generation value may be changing, but the function of the integrated resource plan or resource adequacy is really to ensure load is reliably and responsibly being served. And one responsibility is to forecast the projected load, like Maurice had mentioned. And it's really forecasting that load over time. What is our load expected to look like? How will electrification impact that? What about heating, EVs, domestic manufacturing, data center, AI? All of those things may add to load growth moving forward. But you also have other impacts going on the other side. Is what about energy efficiency continuing? What about rooftop solar? All of those things will weaken the amount of consumption needed by your local utility. And so there's offsetting load growth imperatives going on. And so those are things that we, and along with Black and Veatch, will look at to say, what do we believe our load growth will look like moving forward? And so that's something we're going to project collectively with Black and Veatch. Next slide, please. And so as I look at the 2024 study on the resource side, or the generation side, is what resources are expected to be most effective in meeting that load requirements? Each generation type has its own limitations, its own risks. Each will carry different expectations or different resource adequacy capabilities. The differences between various resource types may be summer and winter different capabilities, day-night different capabilities, potential political concerns, fuel price volatility, instability, the location of the generating assets. All of those differences will impact what resources make sense to put within that portfolio of assets that serve that greater good. And SPP will provide accreditation values for each of those different assets based on the qualities that they may provide. So each of those are just different. There's no one type of, and that's why we're not in the one type of generation business. It's everything requires a stackable approach of all these different assets to meet the best service of our residents in our county. So, and as is the case with the load forecasted assumptions need to be made on the generation perspective as well. So what is the forecasted price of solar? What is that price decline continuing? Are we going to see a blip up? What about battery storage? What about the technology changes are we seeing? Are we going to see lithium ion batteries continue? Are we going to see other battery types? What about hydrogen? Is that a new technology type that we do expect to come on? And when would that come on? All of those things are forecasts that we're going to use. And that's one of the reasons we're partnering with Black and Veatch is they got a breadth of knowledge. They work with utilities around the country. They work with all these different resource types, and therefore they have really good assumptions built into what they believe these price forecasts to be. I will argue that every forecast is wrong, and so you got to take that into consideration. But it is the best information that you have at the time that you move forward with these assumptions and these models. Next slide, please. So the integrated resource plan is really an attempt to develop a base case which indicates the most likely scenario that we believe may occur. The base case is really developed using the assumptions and the forecast, both on the supply side as well as on the load side. And so, like I said, like all models or forecasts, assumptions are required. And therefore, collectively as a team, we will utilize as much information as possible at the current time to make forecasts to what may happen with our load and what will happen with prices around fuel costs, renewable costs, et cetera. All of those things are assumptions that need to be made to make this IRP move forward. And the team will also develop alternative scenarios, as Maurice mentioned, to see how those scenarios may impact the resource mix, the acquisition requirements, et cetera. So as we look at these different scenarios, some may be high load growth. If we experience high load growth here in Kansas City, Kansas, what that means is we need more resources in a more speedy fashion than we believe it to be if we have a slow load growth environment. What happens if we have a high natural gas environment where currently we generally have sat in a low natural gas price environment over most of the past 10 years? But if we're in a high natural gas environment, what does that mean? That likely means that renewables are cheaper relative to thermal generation that you go forward with. Those are all scenarios that we will look at and we will present back to you to help you get a guide of what you believe to be and what happens if X happens or what happens if Y happens. And these are just pictures of what may happen in the future to make sure that you're thinking through the process and understand what may happen and why those scenarios may come true. And this is all we have, and those I'll take any questions anyone has. Well, I appreciate your guys' time. You guys will definitely hear more about this in the upcoming months as we work through this process. So you'll get kind of the process as we go and get your input to put into that feedback, and then we'll feed that through the model, and then we'll discuss what that model presents. So really appreciate your time.
I'm sorry, one question. Your phrase, I think it was kind of humorous. You stated that all forecasts are wrong, and you said that I guess to say that really no one really can predict the future. Is that the purpose for you saying?
That's correct.
Okay,
And we will do our best to be as accurate as possible, but if you can tell me what tomorrow brings, I'd appreciate that. But yes,
Thank
that's
you.
exactly right.
Thank you.
So we will be coming back to the board sometime in spring to, invite your input into this process as to, okay, here's all the information we've got to present to you at that time. Now let's make some determination of where do we go? What does the board like? Where does the board want to see in terms of future generation, things along those lines?
Hey, Bill,
Yes,
will that be in like a separate session, a special session?
yeah, it will.
Okay.
It will.
Thank you.
We're not gonna try to cram all that in here, and I know and I'll work with you on scheduling just to make sure that that don't become an issue. Yeah. Next up is I've asked Jerry to come back. I know he was up not too long ago, but now that we're into 2024, let's take a look at what we're trying to accomplish with the 2024 IT project plans. And Jerry, if you can.
Yeah, we have about 20 minutes, Bill. Look, I'll promise to keep it to that.
Hey, Jerry, hold on a second.
Yes.
Do the heads move? The bobbleheads?
No,
move? No.
no,
Okay.
we could make them move.
I know you could.
Maybe
Okay.
we could do it. I'm not going to be the only one presenting here today. It's 20 minutes. We presented to the steering committee, all the executives last week. We talked about 2023 accomplishments, but the focus today is about what we're doing in 2024 and the benefits there are to our customers. I'm going to be followed by my direct reports. Brian's not here because we're focusing on what we're doing for the customer and for all the business units, not what we do in IT and the data center and telecom and those things. So it's really customer focused and business unit focused. That's the theme of today's projects. So I'll start with by how we plan and deploy IT projects, briefly a slide on that. And then I'm going to have the project lineup. We're going to cover them by major project and business units. We probably have 50 projects. We're going to showcase about 20. The ones that are major, the ones that affect the business units. And you'll see the names there. I've got Robert going with the first few slides on GIS network and customer service. We covered that first. Finance and accounting and human resource, we don't often talk about, but it's really critical to our success. And then purchasing and supply chain, and then the infamous Maximo project. I think we've got a lot of good things to talk about. And I have Dustin, who hasn't presented here before. He'll be showcasing these type of projects and what we're going to be doing to improve this application and improve all the business units' use of it. And at the end, I have a few very fast ones I'm going to cover with the general manager's projects, the board, and administrative ones, really fast. That's it for 20 minutes. I will say how we work together is important here. We're going to do a lot of projects simultaneously. We've been doing that way for the last couple of years. A lot of projects at the same time. It's counterintuitive, but it seems to work well that way to do all the projects at the same time. Different people doing it, but they're all integrated together, and that's the key what we're doing. Key outcome for this is improving processes, and we plan as a team and we work as a team. We're a small unit, so we need to collaborate, and you'll see the common theme through here, collaboration. We have a diverse group of people working, and all their ideas come to bear, working with all the business units, communicating with them. So in 2024, again, multiple projects benefiting all the business units, their major goals. Number one there is improving customer service, experience, and ease of interactions with all the applications that seem to tie together with the customer information system. We want to improve reliability of our systems, make sure there's no downtime, and we're going to use these tools effectively. That's the hallmark of a successful project. We want to keep these things up to date so we don't have high cost
we have to do these major upgrades. We want to do them frequently and often so that there's low cost, high benefit, and no friction. You'll hear that term later in here in the presentation. With that, I will point out that it's equally dispersed in this pie chart. Electric ops, water, electric production, ECC have about 6 projects. Some of them benefit several of those business units like Maximo and GIS. Customer service has the most. It has 6 as an individual business unit. HR and purchasing, 4, finance and accounting, 4, administrative, GM, utility-wise, 2 major projects, which one of them I presented to you last week. With that, we're going to talk about the major projects. I'm going through this quickly, but I'd like to have Robert Camp come up, who is heads up our project office and the project managers. Over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Jerry. Good evening, board. Thank you very much for having me tonight to talk to you about some of our projects that we've got slated for this year. My name is Robert Camp, and I lead the project and delivery team within the IT organization underneath Jerry. So the first project that I would like to talk about tonight is our GIS mapping solution. We use Esri's GIS product, but those are just a bunch of abbreviations. The important thing is it is the maps for both our electrical and water distribution systems. And we are working now on deploying what they call the utility network model, which is a industry standard design model that incorporates all of the different elements of our distribution and transmission systems for both electric and water, and completely models them within a computer system to give us what is known as a digital twin. And that digital twin allows us to do things like run analyses or tests or see how certain outages or maintenance items will impact our network to make sure that we can still provide service to our customers without damaging any of our equipment and maximizing our uptime and minimizing our downtime. So the utility network model is the latest iteration. Over the past 20 years, we had paper maps originally that we then digitized into electronic format. So those just needed to look like maps. And then the newer versions required us to actually electrically connect them or connect the water valves or mains so that you could run some basic analysis on it. And this new model goes much further than that and makes sure that you have all of the sub-assemblies, all of the items that are on top of a electrical pole, all fully modeled, so that when you want to do fault analysis on a single phase or something like that, that you can run that analysis. The UN also provides a number of other benefits, but I'm really going to focus on the first one, and that is making sure that we can run those analyses and share that information, making sure that all of our staff have access to accurate, up-to-date information, which is a major safety concern. It also speaks very closely to efficiency. And it gives us the ability to be able to provide resources that work for us, the ability to find something by almost giving them turn-by-turn directions to the exact location on an address that they need to go look at, right? So if we store the GPS coordinates for where the power comes into the building, then we can lead them to exactly where that is, not just the address. There's going to be a huge benefit for us overall. There's a lot of data requirements and data cleanup that goes into it. I don't want to give the impression that our data is dirty. There's nothing wrong with the data that we have now, but the UN requires much more stringent data controls and much more stringent data completeness in order to get the analysis tools to work. Any questions on GIS before I move on to customer service? Go ahead, sir.
So this will be available also to your repair crews when they go out to repair the line?
Yes, sir. So it is a completely web-based solution and focuses on mobility first. So we'll be able to give connected tablets and they'll be able to pull up the individual maps. They'll also be able to do things like take pictures. So if they go out to do curb stop work or something in front of a property and they have to disrupt the lawn and then restore it, they'll be able to take pictures of that restoration and upload it into GIS so that we have a record of it. They'll also be able to do things like open work orders or resolve work orders while they're out in the field.
I only asked that question because I experienced a time when the work crew came out to an area, they couldn't find the line that they were looking for.
Yes.
So that's why I asked.
Yes.
Thank you.
And those are the things we're trying to get rid of by continuing to enhance our solutions. Any other questions? Excellent. Next up are our customer service projects. So I've spoken to you before about our meter data management and new portal project that will be wrapping up here at the end of Q1. We are also going to have a mobile application. That's going to come a few weeks after the go live for the primary portal and MDM. But it will give people the ability to download an application on their smartphone when either Google or iOS, and be able to do all the same things on their phone that they would be able to do on the portal. They can go ahead and navigate to the portal from the browser on their phone, but this will be a native app that will give them better functionality and better connectivity to their information. It will also allow, the new portal will allow them access to view their usage, pay bills, provision secondary users to be able to access their account, submit things like move in, move out transfers or equalized payment plan requests, and download their usage in order to analyze how the changes that they're making at their home can make changes to their monthly bills. We've also got a request from the customer service group to enhance our IVR solution, which is the automated phone response system you get when you dial in. They would like the ability to enhance the IVR to allow customers to sign up for payment arrangements automatically through the IVR system. So we'll continue to work on that enhancement. We also have a request for automating key customer notifications. These are items like if I sign up for EPP and submit an equalized payment plan request, we would like to communicate back to them when that setup is complete and that they know that their equalized payment plan is now in effect. We can do the same thing with ACH, with bills, or there are a number of other items that customer service has thought of. So these will include communications both over text messaging and over email. And the goal here is to automate it so that staff doesn't have to make sure to follow up that the customers are getting the information directly from the system. And then finally, is this finally? I think there's one more after this. Integrating Maximo customer information system. The important thing here is, so customers call in through the CSRs and they can open up service tickets for field work, for new service or a line drop or something like that. But then it goes into IBM for the field crews because that's their work management system that they use. And then the updates in IBM are not making it back to Kayenta. So the CSRs are unaware what the current status of that request is. And so if a customer calls in for an update, the CSRs have no update to give. So what we want to do is we want to integrate IBM back to Kayenta so that it's a bi-directional data flow so that those updates made on those field work orders can be sent back to the CSRs. And then if the customer calls in requesting an update, we can provide that update to them. And then finally, for customer service, tracking and resolving customer issues. You guys are intimately familiar with this request as this is the escalation request. So we tend to get customer feedback through a number of channels, including phone, IVR, email, text message, outage reporting, board meetings, committee meetings, the whole like. We need a way to capture those issues, escalate them appropriately, track them all the way through to resolution, and provide that updated information to both you all, members of the board, and to the general manager and his key leaders in the GM's office. So we are working on an RFP for that currently, and the goal is to get that RFP done first half of this year for implementation second half of the year, although I don't have a specific timeline because I haven't completed the RFP yet. Any questions on any of the customer service activity? Go ahead, sir.
Another question, I'm sorry, but I thought I was going to ask Bill if he would include it in his comments, but I'm new to the board, so I'm just now receiving the contact your board member form. So please elaborate on that, or Bill will do that in his comments.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay, I'll let Bill elaborate. Any other questions? All right, with that, I will.
I didn't have a question, Rob, but I was going to comment that this would solve some of the things that I feel that I have on the contact your board member, because I don't know who all's responded, if it's been resolved. So I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. All right, with that, I will hand off to Nesby, the supervisor over our application development group who focuses on ERP.
Robert, if I stand here, can you guys see me okay? All right, good. I was worried because I'm a little short, but all right. So I am going to shift gears a little bit because I'm going to focus more on our internal applications, which focus more on our employees. So when I started back in April 2022, I came in as a PM, and Oh, sorry. Yes, I forgot about that. And I guess Jerry liked me enough to move me into the role permanently as a supervisor over the applications development area. So I manage the enterprise resourcing applications, and I'm just gonna go over a few of the projects that we have in that space. So one of the issues that we have is adoption and a lot of process improvements. So adoption is an area of focus because not a lot of our employees are using our solutions as we should. We're not maximizing the use of these solutions. So I want to implement a couple of tools to help them, starting with our Oracle Guided Learning tool. So this is a actual embedded tool in the application that will walk us through an actual step or procedure in the application. So our employees don't have to look at a guide to see how to complete a task that we don't normally do on a daily basis. The next tool is the self-service procurement module. This is a more modern, mobile-friendly module that will help our purchasing team facilitate their requisitions and purchasing a lot easier. So they'll be really excited to get that new tool. Lastly, with our process improvement initiatives, we want our applications to communicate better. So we're going to improve our integrations between our applications. This will create our jobs a lot to be more efficient. We will reduce workarounds, paperwork, and definitely eliminate double documentation, which exists today between Fusion, HR, and Maximo. All right, we'll move to the next slide. All right, and here I'm going to talk about human resources and our human capital management tool. So same thing with this tool. We want to increase adoption, and we want to enable more features for our HR department. What you'll see on the screen is a couple of visuals that will come with this latest upgrade that we're going to implement later this year. So with that upgrade, that's going to take about 6 to 8 months to complete this year. We're going to have several new features and new functionality to maximize our investment in that tool. So we're really looking forward to that upgrade and utilizing some of these metrics. I know like for like HR, they're really looking forward to the turnover, diversity, which today we actually export that data into a Tableau application to kind of get those reporting. With this upgrade, we'll have that directly in the tool. So we're really looking forward for that. Also with human resources, we are engaging in a lot of continuous process improvement initiatives. We want to automate our job posting and recruiting process. Today, we do that via paper, and there's a lot of manual processes involved. And we also want to improve our new hire process and onboarding experience. Again, paper and manual processes. So if we can eliminate a lot of that, we can certainly improve our employee experience. So thank you for your time, and I'll turn it over to Dustin. Thank you.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Miller, Director of Applications. Thanks, Jerry. The Director of Applications, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about our Maximo system. As you've heard, it is our work management system for the utility. We use it to generate work orders for our preventative maintenance. If we have a break-fix situation in the field with an asset, we use it to generate corrective work orders. We use it for compliance tasks. It also supports our storeroom in our inventory. So parts and tools that we need to use to execute on projects. Maximo is a system that's going to be issuing those items and materials to our work orders. Now, Maximo Mobile is going to put that work management system into the hands of our field crews, of our workers, and it's going to really streamline and create much more effective processes. It's going to improve all of operations, and it's going to touch all of operations, but I'm going to talk about purchasing and supply chain first. So today we have antiquated technology. We have scanners that we use to when we have requests, a crew comes into the storeroom, I need these parts to go work on this asset in the field. They have to print a ticket, scan a ticket, modify the information on one of these scanning guns, and then submit that into the system for the work to take place. There's a lot of steps there. So with our Maximo mobile solution, we're going to cut down on all of those steps, and we're going to streamline that process. Because Maximo is going to be on the mobile tool, on the mobile solution itself, it's going to be inherent. The things that they're doing, all of these steps that they're taking, and the software to support those different activities, we can eliminate. There are other processes that supply chain purchasing performs, like inventory cycle counting. The tools that they have today, they do not have the ability to scan an item. So every so often, pretty frequently, they have to count the items in the storeroom to make sure that those counts match what's in the system. Because the scanning guns doesn't allow them to scan a barcode on an item, again, they're having to manually punch into their system, this is the item, this is how many they have. You do that, for hundreds and hundreds of items, it can take, quite a bit of time. So we are implementing this technology to really establish process improvement. We're continuously improving, and this is a means for us to really move to the next level. And the last item we have here, Maximo to Fusion. So Fusion is our purchasing system, it's our finance system. And, in order to make these kinds of tools happen, we have to bolster the integrations that exist today between the systems. And so that's going to be inherent to these kinds of projects. So one of my mentors I've had over my career, Rosemary Lewis, she's just phenomenal leader, talented engineer. She would say to me, Dustin, the most important outcomes we can have in our business and on our projects is to have certainty, predictability, and reliability in our results. But we can't achieve that without being process-centric and data-driven. So we, as a team, as a collective group, spent a considerable amount of time focusing on our processes, standardizing our data, making sure we had the structures in place to allow us to succeed in this mobility project. And it may seem counterintuitive, but you can automate a poorly designed process. And when you do that, it's going to create, like Jerry said earlier, friction. Right. So friction, we don't really like to use corporate jargon, but, friction is a word that has been floating around the tech space the last couple of years, and it's not a new idea. There's process improvement experts. They're called like Lean Six Sigma is a discipline. They would just identify it as waste, but I like the term friction because it really kind of paints a picture in your mind, because what does friction do? It slows us down. It takes more time for us to do these things. It makes it more difficult to move an object from one place to another. It slows our forward progress. It creates heat. And so when processes aren't working as they should, people, tempers flare, temperature rises, right? So I really like that term friction. And as an organization, we should be striving to identify areas of friction and eliminate them whenever possible. And so we're going to seek to do that with this Maximo Mobile project by creating a digital workforce. So on this slide, you'll see, red arrows or orange arrows. That really shows our existing Maximo system. It's a desktop application. It's someone sitting behind a computer performing these kinds of activities. You see blue arrows. This is our target state Maximo Mobile. And where you see these blue arrows is really where we have a lot of manual paper processes that exist today that we're going to eliminate through the course of this project. So I'm going to walk you through this. This is just one example. I'm going to walk you through it. But there's a lot of operational, work examples that would fit into this use case. So, at the top left of the slide, you see we have a BPU customer creating a service request through our website for a development that's going to be installed. They're going to do that, on their desktop. We're going to receive that request through Maximo into our service center. We'll have a clerk there that is reviewing those tickets that are coming in and approving those requests that they receive. Our engineering group is then going to see those approved requests. They're going to put together a design for the work that's being requested. They're going to identify materials. They're going to identify the specialty labor, crafts, the inventory needed to execute on that work. When that package is done, it's going to be reviewed and approved. We're going to release capital in order to purchase the material needed to install those assets. So once we receive that approval, we have Fusion, Maximo, we order that material. Now we're receiving that material in our storeroom. They can do that now on their mobile device. We receive the material, I have a purchase order, I have a work order, I have matches. We bring that into our storeroom. When we have our material, we can look at our schedule, we can look at our resources, our crews, what's our availability to do this work, when does the customer need that work, and when I have my schedule, my resources, my material, I have everything I need to go do the work. And perhaps maybe the most powerful thing here is our field crews will have the ability to see what their schedule is that day on a mobile device. They can see, what work is assigned to me this day, this week, this month, this year. You can go into the future as far as, we're planning for these projects. So they're looking at their mobile device, they see what work they have assigned to them, they can see what materials needed, what tools are needed, they can go to the storeroom, pick up that material. I was speaking to the storeroom example earlier, those clerks can now, because they have the work order, they know what the material is, it's all on the device. So they can scan the material now, which they can't do today. They can scan that material and then issue it to the work order. Very simple. The worker goes to the job. We have forms on the device. So if there's, a pre-job safety form, if there's inspection, whatever kind of work may be managed in here, they can do on that device. They can tell us, when the work is complete, what kind of notes associated with what they did, what kind of pictures, documentation, it's all there on the device, and we know when it's done. That work, then goes, we have some back office activities, maybe we're doing some mapping, some alignment sheets, some as-built, that those kinds of tasks will continue as they do, and we'll complete the work. So you can see from cradle to grave, we've, at least half of the tasks that are being performed today, we are improving them. We're going to become more agile, more effective, more efficient, and more capable of meeting the needs of our community. So this is a big deal for us. And we're really looking forward to it. And I hope to be able to talk to you more about it in the future. Thank you.
When are you gonna have this project done?
Thank you, Jerry. Good question. So we're currently out to bid. We expect to receive our proposals back this Friday from our bidders. We expected to have it done this year, but we're waiting to see the results of the bids to really have a good understanding of where they see us finishing the project. Yeah.
So it's not a long-term project, it's a short-term project. Okay. I'll
Yes.
quickly go through the remaining ones.
Could I ask Dustin one question? Is there a way with step 9 or 10 and 11 that improves the inventory at the storeroom, or is it automatically come off that this piece of equipment left, or do you understand what
So
I'm
really
getting at?
on step 3, the storeroom has visibility into
Okay.
all the jobs that we're planning and the total quantity of material we need to do that work and when that work will be planned. So they'll know that they need to order more material to meet the need of the work
Okay.
at the time of when it needs done.
So step 3, I was looking too late in the process. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Dustin. Here are 4 general manager, board and administrative projects. We talked about the bill separation project. We are making slow progress. I would say slow but steady, but it needs some improvement. Number 2, AMI assessment. We've got these smart meters out there, electric and water. We're doing an assessment on the longevity of them, see about the failure rates, see what we need to do. We'll present that next week. Stormwater project, that just went live. So that was a successful project that we undertook in the last year. That's the one that provides different rates from the UG's charging and different, impervious rates for the size of your property. Okay. The next one is the UG rebate program that goes live. It started, the program enrollment started in January. It ends in April 15th. That's going to be underway. Utility-wide IT project. We've got 2 here. I said we weren't going to talk about Brian's projects, the infrastructure and network team, but for the benefit of the whole utility, we're doing a disaster recovery to make sure our 2 data centers are redundant. If one goes out for a catastrophic loss, fire, hurricane, tornado, the other one would work. Or if we have a mishap, or we have a ransomware, things of that nature, we're trying to have disaster recovery. We do these drills all the time, but this one here is making sure that the data centers are redundant. Okay. And then internally, we have a bunch of internal websites that are helpful for people to manage their business. We're going through the second phase of improving those websites for all the data they need, orders, forms, and it's called BPU Central. And then finally, we're concentrating internally in IT and professional development of the staff, improving collaboration through a lot of different ways, maximizing our technology investments, and then cross-training. So we're moving people within the department to give them more background, providing lunch and learns. We're taking advantage of conferences and training and bringing in the experts from the original equipment manufacturers, the technology companies that come in here and help with the training to get us up to speed, get us all on the same sheet of music so that we have an effective process. If they did that last year for customer service, we'll probably do it again in a number of other areas. Okay. With that being said, do you have any questions?
I have one question, but I don't know if it's going to go to you, Jerry, but on that AMI longevity, what's like the earliest date for our AMIs? Like about how old are they now?
So we started the project in 2011.
2011.
At that time, we was looking at, excuse me, we were looking at around 15 years, maybe not to do a complete system rebuild, but at least start looking at rebuilding part of it. Certainly the meters have a lot of electronics in it compared to the old electromechanical, and those are susceptible to surges and other things that happens on our system, lightning and stuff like that. So we have had some failures there. But 2015, this is 2024, so we're approaching that time. So we're doing we're looking at, okay, where do we go next? How much of the system need to be replaced and at what pace?
It's been about a 3 or 4 month assessment and a lot of numbers, a lot of analysis, working with the teams. We present that to Bill next week. I want to thank my team here, showcasing Nesby and Dustin, who are relatively new to the company, who are really coming to their own, as you can see. And I'm pretty proud of them. They do excellent work. And the main thing they do is they communicate with the business units and they work with them and find their requirements and try to exceed their expectations. Thank you.
Dennis, before you leave, you talked about efficiencies and time efficiencies, and I really appreciate all the presentations that were made. One of the efficiencies that we look at, I don't know what about other board members, but I know that I really look for cost efficiencies and how these improvements or that we're engaging is improving the cost to our utility, the expense, I know budget's already been approved, but I'd like to see that, when presentations are made, if that would help.
Certainly.
You guys, because that would, because as you know, we just raised our rates, you know, and because of that, and we just approved our budget, but because of that, people are really wanting to see how we're saving money. And I think if we could show them in the things that we're doing, how that's helping to save our costs and our expenses, I think that would help as well.
Certainly. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I'll move on to miscellaneous comments. The one thing that we did to answer that question now, I can't sit here and give you ROIs on everything we do because I don't have that information in
Yes, sir.
front of me,
Yes, sir.
but
Yes.
it was like a 15-year project plan for the AMI system. You know, we brought in a lot of third parties to help not only assess the technology that was out there at the time, but also do a return on investment study on our business process and how fast and how fast and where can we identify return on that type of investment. That was a huge investment, changing all the meters, putting in all the communication, putting in all the back office products. So if I remember right, I think that was somewhere between a 5 and 7 year payback, just based on the business process we had, because we had a lot of employees that were just constantly running up and down the streets, going back and forth, driving a lot of trucks, doing a whole lot of manual processes. And today, we can collect the read without sending anybody out there. We can do another request for a read if something happens. If we need to do it on a moment's notice, we can do a disconnect remotely on most of the electric meters. And then in addition to all that, we can present hourly read information to our customers to help them benefit and see how they're using our product. And then they can make more intelligent decisions around what they're doing around the clock and using electric and water services, and hopefully create those savings for themselves.
Thank you.
I'll go to miscellaneous comments. I got a few things. So first thing, we get last question asked about contact your board member. So I did ask to be listed on those contact your board member requests as they come into through our website. So at least I can be aware and we can start taking some action. So as soon as I see those, whether it's on my phone, whether it's on my laptop, or desktop, I do send those out to staff as quickly. Sometimes it takes time to get an answer because it may have to go through more than one department. And I would say that I haven't followed up on all of them as quickly as I could have, but sometimes they take longer. And I do have 2 or 3 that I'm working on now, trying to get answers back so I can turn that around. But, I have been thinking about, I know Chris is involved with quite a bit. I know Kaylee is maybe having them added to that contact your board member form too. So they can help me process that quicker and maybe turn that around quicker, especially if I get pulled off and I'm busy doing other things. At least I've got some added resources there to follow back up with you. But I know in the past and I know the 2 of you are new, but I know in the past I've told the board that I'm quick to send that out as soon as I see it come across, my phone or computer, that I do get it out to our staff, whether it's Janetta, whether it's Jeremy, whether it's Steve, whether it's, anybody that's really involved with any of these customer questions or requests that come in. But again, sometimes it takes a little while for us to go out and see. We may have to contact the customer directly to get more information. We may have to go out and do a field visit to kind of analyze what's going on at that site or location. So, but I will try to follow up quickly and more completely on those as they do come through. And I know that there's been more here recently coming through. So I've got 2 again that I need to get out in the next, probably tomorrow or the day after.
How are those generated?
So how they generated, the customer can go to the website and fill out a form, fill out their request. And then when they hit send, it automatically comes in. You guys get notice of it, I get notice of it. And then I'll just turn around and email that out to one of our employees and say, hey, look into this and follow back up with me as quickly as you can.
I would just like to know if it's resolved. If I've communicated directly with Chris, I always know it's resolved. It's customer service. She usually gets back to me, but since she doesn't see what comes in,
Right.
I usually have to forward to her, forward the request to her. So that might be helpful if she could see it as well. But I just need to know, did this get resolved? Especially if it's something that I worked on, I try to address everything that comes in if it's something I know how to address
Right.
and who to send it to.
Yep, and I do know I owe you that quicker, so
Okay,
I'll work on
I
that.
appreciate that.
So we don't have to respond to them directly?
No, because really, I mean, your only way of responding is then send it to me or send it directly to staff.
Thank you.
And I'm on top of it almost as soon as you are, unless there's something that I'm not paying attention to at that time when it comes in. But I do see it. It does go out. There's not that much time that elapsed before they get it from me.
So they're sent to us on information purposes.
I'm sorry.
They're just sent to us for our information.
Well, they'll go out and see what the problem is and then see what the solution is, and then they'll report back. So, but again, sometimes those may take a day. It may take several days. So
Thank you.
I think what Stevie's asking is that he's getting these board member requests as information only because they're already going to you and to
Yes.
other people and you're looking into it.
Right.
He's just getting it as information for FYI here. This is
well, yeah,
not to necessarily respond to them.
right.
Okay.
Well, and I guess we need to talk about closing the gap as to who follow back up with that customer. And you can certainly do that if you want. Sometimes I have. Sometimes we've given the board information back. And I mean, if you want to be part of that process, I know there was a request early that if people have problems with the utility, they don't think that those issues are being resolved, to contact the board through these means. So
Well, it depends.
if you want me to follow back up, then we can take a team approach to making sure we follow the customer.
I'm going to throw this out again. We have somebody that works with the large companies, large users. We need to have a consumer advocate, somebody that will, when things go like they're going and they can't get something resolved, that they can, that they know where they can go to, that it's out there as publicized to get a hold of this person. And that'd take some of that off of you, which you're a general manager. You don't need to be running around doing all this, stuff that you're having to do. We need to have somebody that's dedicated to looking out for the consumer, being a consumer advocate.
Okay.
Whether that be somebody specialized in customer service, sitting in the lobby, or, we need to have somebody that Mr. Hanson could go to when he's not feeling like he's getting his issues resolved, that there's somebody that he can contact. Again, it's this email, contact your board member is a start, but not everybody knows that. And not everybody, I get calls, each of the board members get calls from people that know us personally, have our numbers. But the people that don't, they're just out there floundering and they need to have a contact. In my opinion.
Yeah, like
Will
this past week, there was an issue with the post office and I got calls from people that said, I didn't get my bill. They were all people who get a paper bill and they didn't receive their bill. They knew it was due. They were worried about getting a late payment. And I think there were 2 or 3 of those issues that I got from phone calls. There might've been one on the reporting system. I can't remember, but you don't know when that's gonna happen. That's not the
No.
BPU's fault.
But
It's,
in that case, as soon as I got the first request and Janetta told me, hey, we're having issues with this post office, they were automatically following up with customers not contacting the board to let them know that. At the same time, I sent an email directly to the board to say, hey, if you're hearing anything, then there we are having problems with the post office, and just to help you with information that you may hear that may not get back to staff.
Yeah, I had already, I think, had helped two customers with that issue.
Right.
By that time, so, yeah.
Okay.
I think you touched on this a little bit. I'm happy as a elected official to respond to those, especially when they're in District 3. I think what's helpful for me as I do that is knowing it's incredibly helpful that you're flagging them, you're starting to get that work done. But I think what's helpful for me is knowing, has there been a reply, right? So let's say that work involves going to multiple departments, or we're gathering information. Not all of that happens at the snap of a finger, but I think it's helpful for me to know, did they get an initial, hey, we've got your email, here's what's happening on it, we're going to follow up. I'm happy to say that because now I know what's happening, but I don't want to, in some cases, folks might get a response from all 6 of us, or, 3 or 4 of us. And if they're getting the same thing from you, I don't want to bombard them, but I also want to make sure they know their request has been heard.
Yeah, the first thing first, I did want the board to know that I'm getting it, I'm taking action. Earlier, right out of the gate, I said, I think this is an area where I can improve, or staff can improve in bringing this information back to you, so that that we are working on it, so.
Well, and
And having 6 people respond with 6 different answers, we need to have a uniform response.
We can do that.
I mean,
We can certainly take that completely out of the board's hands, and we can follow back up with.
well, the thing is the way this came about is we were asked by David, I don't think he's here tonight, hey, do you want your contact information available? And he asked us individually. Some of us said we did, some of us said we didn't. I'm one who said I did, right? My cell number, my email, put it out there. And the response we got, this was the result, is we got this generic, it goes to all the board members. And so there's no visibility behind it. And it's great, Bill, that you're copied on it, but you're the general manager of this company. I truly do not expect you to be handling some of this stuff. I mean, that you have capable leaders in this company to do that thing. Tom, agree with you. Consumer advocate, right? I mean, wow. It's not a novel concept. And this is highlighting right here how I think that would be helpful, Mr. Hansen's problem tonight and beyond, how that would be helpful. But, one thing I hope we're doing, and again, using the system we have now, we don't have visibility into it, is I want a response, not an automated response, a response going back to our customer that I got it, right? I got it. We're going to look into it. I mean, that is really just customer service 101. And so they don't think it's gone into a black hole that, they already, right? I don't know.
I will attempt to go back to what I just said that I would do, right? So, yes, I send it out. I see where I need to pull more people in there so that they are also working on this besides me. And we need a quicker follow-up with the board, and we can certainly follow back up directly with the customer as quickly as we can get an answer. Okay, I'll put that group together, and we'll hope that it works out a lot better than it currently does.
Sorry, I don't mean to belabor it. When you say you send it out, what I'm hearing is it goes to the relevant staff who can get that information. Are you also meaning a response goes directly to that customer?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
And I normally respond. If I know I'm gonna get Chris to help me solve the problem, I normally respond to the person who sent in the request and tell them, hey, I'm working on it. I'll get back with you with some resolution.
Okay. So we'll follow up, Brett, if you got. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Next item is lobby operation. So let's go there. So have been working with staff, trying to take a look at where and how we can open up part of the lobby back up. It won't be a full-blown lobby operation like we had before. We're spending quite a bit of money, have a lot of equipment down there just to make sure that we process those people that were coming in, but it'll be a little bit scaled down version of that. I don't have a date because I've requested that from Jody. She's working with the building management team on the timetable, the cost and all that. So she's telling me I should have something next week to be able to report back in terms of a schedule, the cost to be able to open up part of that lobby. So as soon as I have that, I will I'll let you know, and then I'll talk to you more about that at that time about here's part of the plan and here's what we hope to do with the lobby service we will be offering at that time.
So Bill, on that, are you looking at whatever, the potential partial opening looks like? Are you looking at those customer service reps to be handling financial transactions?
That's not our thought right now. No.
Right, and I think I think that hopefully can save us, some headache there, right? I mean, we've got kiosks right outside the building, some of which, and I understand people don't know how to use. But if we have a customer service agent that is actually able to help a customer service agent utilize the kiosk, and not physically take the money in, but, hopefully that would cut down on or eliminate the need for that component.
And that's been suggested by management that we have somebody there to help them with the kiosks there too. So, but also I really need to fully understand everything that we can do to help customers short of taking payments and stuff like that, and what all their needs and requests will be once we open back up. So I'll come back and give you, here's our plan for a lack of a better word, scaled down but open lobby operations. Last Tuesday.
Let me, I'm sorry. I just have to just briefly thank you for looking at what it's going to take finally to open it up. I don't understand and have not why there's going to be a great difficulty. This is not rocket science because there has been for a long time a lobby service. There's probably no greater issue to many of us. We've talked about the other plans that have than immediately opening something, a kiosk. And if you or somebody else needs some help as to how this might flow, I'd be glad to try and work out a schematic for reopening.
Professional doing that.
Well, the professionals apparently can't grasp a simple matter of reopening a space where someone would come through. They need not go through even the megometer or whatever you call the place where the metal detectors are, and to talk with someone behind a glass about an issue face to face with human interaction, and then to have that resolution put through. I would hope that we would not take more extensive time, a month, 2 months, however, when we have, and I have people clamoring as lately as this evening with what would be a swifter resolution to so many issues by just having that opportunity to walk through this door in this mammoth building and have a small area where they can find some human interaction to a customer service resolution, preferably two. That customer service person in that kiosk or that area would be bilingual, at least. And if there's a tertiary or third or fourth language outside of the two, that there would be an area they could call and speak with them. This is February. I just hope that, we don't take as long as we did for the transparency that we did when there was an advocacy to have these meetings interactive. Took a year almost. And this is a simple, very simple matter. And I hope you and the professionals that you're working with could find some expeditious way to not drag this out too much longer for those of us, and I'm one of them, who hopes that we have that human interaction restored as swiftly as possible to our utility.
Last week, I did made another visit to Topeka, going up there quite frequently. Senator Haley happened to attend our meeting with the Wyandotte County delegation. So it was generally go up there to give them just an update on utility operations matters and things along those lines. But also I went up and made a special request for their support on some of the state funding that we are seeking, and kind of laid out a list of here's the things that we're trying to secure in terms of funding from the state, and asked directly for their request on all of those. Prior to that, we made a visit to Kansas Housing Resource Corporation to meet with their staff. There's a couple of projects we talked about. One is the Solar for All project that we hope to get funding for. They told us when we were up there, we were the first in the state of Kansas to come to them to talk to them about that project. So they were certainly welcome. Nobody else had approached them about it. We talked to them. They were certainly tracking funding, and this has a particular interest to Wyandotte County, to BPU, because it is a way for us to use the federal tax credits. We're certainly nonprofit, so it don't work out like the private industry, but federal tax credits to come back and discount the power of energy and provide that to our low income, most vulnerable customers. So that's really what the grassroots of this whole thing is and what we're trying to accomplish. Certainly they're interested. Before we left Topeka, we started getting emails and calls about, hey, we got more questions. We want you to see more about what you're doing here. But they were also impressed of where we are in terms of knowing what the federal government had required, was requiring, and then kind of what the state was looking at doing. So they were impressed that we'd already done our homework. We were fully prepared to talk to them. And again, we were the first person in the state to approach them on this project. So hopefully they'll see our application as the best application presented to them. See? But at the same time, they did tell us that they want to engage with us over some energy efficiency program dollars and stuff that they have come out. So, I mean, they're in the same camp that I spoke to the board and I've been on the record with. I'm certainly glad that the federal funds have moved from utility bill support, because I just saw that as just a temporary Band-Aid approach, to having money available to go to people to help fix the problems that they're having with their homes that will have a lasting impact, long-term impact on, reducing their energy consumption. And, I still wish that the CURE dollars had came out that way, but it is what it is. Okay. And it did provide some benefit during the COVID period, so I'm not going to discount that. But I've always been, let's go to the root cause of the problem and try to address that. And I think that's where the feds are. That's where the states are. So we're trying to dig into the energy efficiency program dollars even more and have some follow-up conversation. And once we get through some of that, we'll be reporting back as to what we would like to do as a utility in terms of helping our community in that way too. I will say there's information out there about the APPA conference. The AWWA information is out there. APP has already opened up registration. I don't think AWWA is it open, Steve? It is, okay. And so if you want to go either or, we can get you information. I would say the sooner the better that we know, so we can at least start reserving rooms and things like that. And there will obviously be good topics on the water conference, good topics on the power conference too. So just let Chris know what your wishes are, and we'll follow up. Mr. President, that's all I've got. Well, public comment. So is there anybody that wants to speak to anything that we've covered today on tonight's board meeting?
would you come up and give your name and address, please? You don't need to.
State your name and address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Ty Gorman. I'm living at 2843 Parkwood Boulevard. My first time speaking in front of a couple of the new folks here. Excited to see you. And thank you very much for your time. I was coming back from the West, working on some state and regional level meetings and advocacy, which is where I spend a lot of my time lately, and was just so excited to hear on my way back the presentation from the integrated resource planning side of this meeting that I decided I needed to stop by and talk in person. So I appreciate this opportunity. But also this last discussion was also really exciting. I'm working with the KHRC and a couple of these other folks, and the Solar for All, I feel like BPU has a huge opportunity to engage in Solar for All, to incorporate it into efficiency projects, because Solar for All can be spent on that, and to really reduce bills for a lot of folks who have trouble with health, in-home health, and in-home bill payment. I think that can also be incorporated with some of these bill payment programs that may have been a Band-Aid during the pandemic, but now still exist and should be part of the solution. And the board should keep their ears open to opportunities from the UG, from other places, to state programs and local programs to incorporate, like anyone who qualifies for one of these programs, for our efficiency program, should be getting all of the pantheon of services that should go to folks who are struggling. And you don't have one bucket of money that goes to bills without the other for food. So you have to really try to bring all these services together and with the bill payment. So really appreciate all that. And the progress I've seen in the board and in these meetings over the past couple of years, when I've been advocating for folks who have been having their power shut off when they shouldn't, having medical issues and equipment that should keep them from getting shut off. And then this last year for the Inflation Reduction Act stuff. So a lot of great progress. The integrated resource plan side of things, I thought the presentation was great, and that the breadth of how this planning process should work was well described. The one part I'll take the rest of my time to lean back on is that
You
Black
have
and
30
Beach is
seconds.
enough. I don't feel that any Sierra Club, I'm the Oklahoma and Kansas senior organizer for the Sierra Club in this region, and I live in Northeast KCK here, and I'm excited to be a part of this utility. But the integrated resource plans here have not been as expansive as they should be, and are as expansive as they are in other places in the country. The product cost modeling, the other
That's 3
parties
minutes.
that should, 1 minute?
No, that was 3.
Oh. I didn't hear the first warning. If I may have 2 more seconds, I feel like there are other opportunities for integration with other consulting firms, other groups, and payment for that from third parties that are available to the BPU now to bring other sources of modeling and assumptions into a 20-year plan on an integrated resource plan. I encourage you all to educate yourselves on the possibilities there, and I'll be happy to be a resource for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, you can come up, state your name and full name and address for the record. I didn't want to.
Karen Scheibe. I live at 3101 South 54th Street, Kansas City, Kansas. 4th generation dot, first time at a microphone, not a public speaker. So one of the questions I had was regarding the bill separation that's been discussed. I was at the Livable Neighborhoods meeting a couple weeks ago, and one of your communications gentlemen asked for feedback on that. So I did some feedback on our local Facebook page. It's kind of Turner, Muncie, Morris. It's about 5,400 people. Everyone on there responded they wanted to keep it one bill. We also have a text group in our neighborhood. There's about 64 homes I individually texted. They all want one bill. There was also requests for being able to come into the door again and speak to someone. So I just wanted to give that feedback. I kind of saw it's up there for Q3. So I don't know if that's actually happening or if we still do have a, some say in that. But I would just wanted to give that feedback.
Thank you. We're always interested in.
Hey,
Yeah.
Karen, thanks for coming. I saw your Facebook post.
Oh, okay.
And I flagged it and
Thank you.
I've been watching it, monitoring it, and with the multiple people making multiple comments, it's roughly 40 people or so commented there. You said you texted 64 people, homeowners.
Like an
So
individual
100-ish
communication.
or so customers, right? Out of 65,000 electric customers.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I just, no, and
It's
I
just not-
appreciate the feedback and I appreciate you, actually taking the time to get out in your neighborhoods and solicit feedback. We really appreciate that.
Okay, well, thank you.
Let me add if I could. As we try to look at the bifurcated bill so that we do have one bill that has the consumption of electric and water and the other with the unified government fees and taxes, and that'd be the two bills. I would hope and think that even if there were those options to have the two bills, that those who just wanted a consolidated bill just to pay that would still have that option. The other option, though, are for those who don't want to see the fees and charges by the UG be tantamount to not paying the bill and leading to whatever repercussions could come, like disconnection. So if somebody would still want, I don't think that the two couldn't both exist, that those who just wanted one bill could certainly have that. I don't know, as we go through this process, I would hope that that would still be an option to have one bill, but then to allow those who prefer, which most of the people I've talked with would be able to pay or have the two separate ones so that they're not penalized for not paying their UG, penalized as much for not paying their UG taxes.
This is just feedback I've received. It seems to me like the BPU is really nice about not cutting people off. Now, maybe other people have had different situations with that. I'm not saying that it hasn't happened. I'm just saying that the concerns some people had I've spoken to is if you separate the electric and the water out from the stormwater, wastewater, and trash service, then they might just start paying the one bill, the electric and that, but then not pay the trash service, the wastewater. And then what happens in those areas may get degraded even further than they are today. So that's just one of the things that was brought up about separating the two from keeping them together.
And that is the exact thing that the unified government is concerned with too, because they do use BPU as a way of collecting those fees for them
Correct.
without picking up the cost or doing anything to help us with all of that. So
I can't get into that. But I was gonna say, for the people that call in though, I didn't realize, I guess, because I haven't had a problem with any of that lately, that 311, I mean, I guess if I had a problem, I'd probably pick up my phone and call 311 and say, who do I call? So when you talk about documenting numbers of calls, that seems to me like if you beefed up 311, that may be a way of problem tracking. Just a thought. I don't know if it works or not. I'm just.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
And
Anybody else in the audience that wants to speak on any of the topics that was discussed on the agenda this evening? Is there anybody online that has their hand raised? Excuse me?
No, sir, there are no hands raised.
Okay.
I think that at some point, I probably need to come back to the board on the separation conversation and see exactly what we're doing and how we move forward. So.
Knew it was too good to be true.
Well, you know where where I am, you know. So
I do.
I think I know where you are, so.
Okay. At this time, we'll have board comments. Ms. Rose Mulvaney Henry, do you have any comment?
Yeah. Comments this evening. So, Janetta, Gabby, Lori, all the customer service folks that continue to trudge through the review of the customer service policies. Thank you. And thank you for committing the extra time to getting addressing this on continued basis. And hopefully getting to the end of that soon, but thank you guys for your time for that. Maurice, Andrew, thank you guys very much for your IRP presentation tonight. That was really insightful and helpful. I know you guys put a lot of effort into that, particularly you, Andrew, so thank you very much. Appreciate that. Jerry, I would be remiss if I didn't look at you and your team for all the efficiencies that you guys are planning on here, you know, with Rob and Nesby and Dustin. You guys are bringing this utility into the 2000s, right? I mean, no, really, you guys are doing some amazing things, and I'm sure that it renders a lot of change around here. But thank you guys for committing to continue it, because I think the utility is going to be better for it. So thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Yes, Mary?
Okay. Aaron, thank you for sticking around, which probably a lot of people might not do. And for that information, that usually people go to the microphone and tell us how horrible we are. And so it's rather refreshing to just come up with some information that we don't always know about. Jerry, your team did an excellent job. I'm always mesmerized by Maximo and everything that it can do and everything that I can learn about it. So Dustin, Nesby, Rob, appreciate all your hard work of putting that together. And Maurice and Andrew, thank you for the IRP. I'll be looking forward to that to come out and try to figure out what our needs and how we're going to supply those needs. I know Nearman's getting old. I'm anxious to hear how much life we've got left. So I appreciate that. Thank you for your work and your time tonight.
Well, I also want to thank all of the folks from the public who made helpful comments and staff for the presentations. At the risk of, repeating previous comments, I'm also excited about the IRP process and just looking forward to be engaged with that. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to all those who made presentations, also those from the public who came, and then good to see you again, Ty. And thank you for your information, and I'm sure that they'll be looking into those opportunities. I do owe you an apology, Jerry, because I think I called you Dennis, and then Dennis walked in and said, "Oh my God, Jerry Dennis." So I'm getting the names, and so I'm becoming familiar with the names. But certainly thank all of you for your presentations, and thank you.
Senator?
I just want to say ditto to, I think, what everyone has said. Thank you certainly for those who've given the public presentations and review, and certainly to the review that we have, or that we had from Jerry and his staff, the entirety that you went through as well. I just want to say again publicly, I try to hope that we find a way to bring a maximum service to the ratepayers, that any decision that I hope we make, we'll look at how we can better improve what has been an image that we don't deserve, that this utility doesn't deserve. I just hope we become, in what we're doing, and some of that touched on tonight, to streamline how we're interactive with the public and to be more responsive is what we'll continue to do, and to bring our image around. And that's all I have. Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate everything that was been said. Thank you very much, Jerry and your staff, Andrew, everybody else that presented this evening. It's always enlightening to get that information. Thanks for the public that showed up and for their input. It's vitally important that we hear from you. So thank you very much. And so with that, I will close the board comments and ask Angie if she would take us to executive session.
Yes, and did you wish to stay in this room or move into the workroom?
I didn't probably just stay here
Okay. All right.
unless, yeah. Stay here.
The proposed motion for adoption is as follows. I move that after taking a 5-minute break, the board go into executive session in the boardroom to discuss confidential matters related to an update on labor negotiations pursuant to the employer-employee negotiations exception in the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and that the General Manager, William Johnson, Chief Administrative Officer, Lori Austin, Acting Chief Counsel, Angela Lawson, Director of Human Resources, Dennis Dumovich, HR Manager, Ashley Culp, Chief Operating Officer, Jeremy Ash, and outside counsel, Ryan Dink, Spencer.
Ryan is in the back.
Be present to participate in the discussion. All others should be dismissed from the room and electronic and telephonic transmissions cease, and that we reconvene in open sessions with electronic and telephonic transmissions returning at 8:30. Or 8:25, I'm sorry, at
So we're
8:25.
going to 5-minute break and then 30-minute session or?
I think 25 minutes, so
25?
8:25.
Okay.
I think she did say.
Okay, yeah, okay. Do you need a motion for that?
Yes.
Okay, we need a motion.
So moved. Rose.
Second.
Okay, it's been
Makes-
moved and seconded that we move into executive session after a 5-minute break. Would you do roll call, please?
Roll call, Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
That motion carries. This meeting is
We are
adjourned.
adjourned.
All right.
Good.
Wait.
Not gonna get adjourned.